Welcome. Today we're going to be making Welcome to Tasty Tuesday from FCHS here in Somerset County. I'm Daryl Minch, Family and Community Health Science Educator for Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Somerset County. Today we're going to make herb sauces. We're going to make two sauces. First we're going to make chimichurri sauce. It's a favorite sauce down in South America, particularly Argentina and Uruguay. And we're also going to make a fresh herb pesto. So let's start with our chimichurri sauce. The recipe comes from delish.com and there are many different variations, but you can get it there. It starts off with a cup of flat leaf parsley. So a couple of things I just want to show you. This is the flat leaf parsley. There are two varieties, the flat leaf and the curly. The flat leaf is said to have more flavor than the curly. Sometimes people think that the curly is a little more bitter, but you may use whichever works for you. Let taste be your guide. This is what I've purchased. Quick tip about how to store parsley when you purchase it or collect it from your garden. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the best way to store parsley and cilantro to keep it a long time is to take it, put it in a glass or a cup, put some water in the bottom for the stems. If it's not fresh cut, I cut just a little bit off the stems. Pick a flat bottom, heavy bottom cup, mug, because in your refrigerator it could easily topple over. Then take a bag, plastic bag, cut a few holes in it, cover it over lightly, don't seal the bottom, and put it in the refrigerator. I've had parsley and cilantro last for a couple weeks in that method. So I measured my parsley, I pull off the leaves, and I'll show you a couple ways you could do that. One way is to just pull the leaves off by hand, just use your thumb. Often as the parsley gets bigger, the stems are kind of tough, so they don't taste good, and they also just are kind of too chewy. So we're going to put those, let's put those in here. Another method some people use is my scissors have these little holes, or maybe you have a spoon, and if you pull it through, the stem is free of the leaves, and you're good to go most of the time. All right, so chopping up the parsley. This can be done in a food processor, but you want to make sure you pulse the food, the herbs. You don't want them to be over chopped. It's more like a salad consistency. You don't want a paste. So to chop up my parsley, I did some already, but we're going to do some more. And I pack it in so that it gets lots of parsley flavor. You have a couple of options. One is to take a sharp knife and just moving the parsley around. Just want to move my garlic out of the way. And rock the knife back and forth to get a nice even chop. Works really well. Parsley and all herbs have antioxidants in them, and those antioxidants may be helpful over time in protecting our bodies from diseases like heart disease and cancer, and so eating lots of herbs is good. And the other good thing about herbs is that because they have so much flavor, we can really cut back on the salt in our diet, and that's important for preventing hypertension or high blood pressure, or if you already have hypertension or high blood pressure, too much salt can also aggravate that condition. So use more herbs, less salt. This smells absolutely wonderful. So that's the chopped parsley, and of course I always washed my hands before I started, and this is some more chopped. Let me show you one other method for chopping parsley. Oops, here it is. You take a mug, I'm going to use my Rutgers mug here, and you're going to use scissors. Doesn't have to be kitchen scissors, you can use any scissors. I like to turn the mug on its side, and I just operate the scissors like this and keep moving it around, and you get a really nice chop. It's really neat because it stays in the mug and it's easy to get out. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of fresh oregano. If you don't have fresh oregano, you could use a teaspoon of dried, but the fresh has such nice flavor, and I happen to have some in the garden. So if you've never grown your own herbs, it's really fun. It doesn't take up a lot of space. You can either do them right in a pot on any sunny spot. You need about 6 hours of sun to grow herbs. Nice, well-draining soil. If you have a garden, again, you can put them in there, and you can save a lot of money. So the fresh herbs in the supermarket, I took a look yesterday. The price was anywhere from $57 to $64 a pound. Now, granted, herbs are light. You don't need a lot, but $2 paid for a very tiny amount of the fresh herbs. So growing your own can really save you some money if you like it fresh. So I've got a nice chop. You want it to have some leaf. You don't want it to be really fine. A little bit of salad. Now we're going to add 3 cloves of garlic. I'm going to use my garlic press. I already peeled the garlic. Fork. Garlics, you can adjust how much you like. Depends on the size of the cloves. I love my garlic press because it does a really nice job. If you're going to purchase one that's sturdy. I purchased one that wasn't so sturdy and it did not hold up. Or you can chop the garlic finely by hand. Next, we're going to add a 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Pour that in. And this is another thing that as you make the recipe from time to time, you may want to decrease or increase the olive oil based on your taste and how you're going to use it. Now we're going to add a 1/4 cup of vinegar. This way. And I'm using red wine vinegar. It's a nice flavor. And we're going to use a little bit of lemon zest. This is optional. I'm just washed the lemon well. I'm using my grater here. And you don't want to get any of the white because that's kind of bitter. So you just want to get the yellow part on top. Gives nice bright flavor. And let's see what else we need. Now we're going to add a pinch of red pepper flakes. Now a lot of the traditional recipes for this dish also use, instead of the red pepper flakes, use red chilies. And you can, I'm going to do it over my hand because I just want to make sure I don't put too much in. Again, you can adjust this based on how much heat you like. In my house, we like a lot of spicy things, so that's good. And just a dash of salt. Not too much, because I just told you you don't want to have too much salt in your diet. So that was less than 1/8 of a teaspoon. It was a really tiny amount. So you're going to stir this up really well. Oops, got a stem in there. And that's all there is to it. So that's the sauce. This in Argentina is usually used as brushed on grilling, so grilled meats, flank steak, something like that, nice and lean. I find it works really nice on chicken. You could use it as a marinade. You would use some of it as the marinade and marinate your chicken, for instance, in the refrigerator. It's best if you let this sit for 10 minutes to a couple of hours in the refrigerators. Welcome everybody. And that allows the flavors to blend before you use it. If you do use it as a marinade, then you're going to discard the marinade, grill your food, and use what you have as reserve. It was never marinating. That's a food safety important rule. And then you could brush that on to finish. It's really good as a condiment. So you put some on the fish when you're, not fish, but your meat or something when it's done. I really like it on grilled vegetables as well. So I grilled some zucchini. I think we'll just do it this way. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on, and then I'm going to brush it over. So you don't want this to be cooked. It has that really nice fresh flavor. So I just brush it on at the end. To grill the zucchini, I just slice the zucchini probably about 3/8 of an inch thick. I brushed it with a little bit of olive oil, and then I grilled it, probably about 3 or 4 minutes aside. So that's our finished grilled vegetables. I also like to stir this into, say, green beans. It has a really nice, fresh, bright flavor. Whatever you don't use, we'll probably keep 2 to 3 days in the refrigerator. It does not freeze well. You want that fresh herb sauce flavor. So that's chimichurri sauce. Another thing I do like about this is it's a sauce that you can make fresh year-round. Parsley is relatively inexpensive all year round and very available in all of our markets, as opposed to some of our other herbs which are more seasonal. Okay. So our next sauce that we're going to make is a mixed herb pesto. Most of you are probably familiar with the traditional basil pesto. It's basil, olive oil, garlic, and what's the other thing? Basil, and more Parmesan cheese. So let's see. Hold on, goodness. I'm gonna move some of these things. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move our herbs here. So basil, my basil, I don't have enough in my garden yet for this, so I had to buy some. This was hydroponically grown, so you can see the root system down here. It's very compact. They're grown in little pots, and the root's compact. If you're storing basil, put it in, again, a heavy glass or a glass that's not going to tip over. Add water to cover the roots or the stems, and leave it on your counter. Basil does not like the cold. If you put it in the refrigerator, it will turn black. So for this dish, we're going to use our food processor. We're going to start with about half a cup of chives. And these chives did come from my garden. I have 1 flower left. Chives have really pretty flowers. You can eat them. Makes a really nice vinegar. So we need about half a cup of chives. Because when you put them in the food processor, they tend to bunch up. You want to cut them into about 3-inch pieces, or at least a shorter sections so that they chop when they go to the food processor. Chives are a perennial. They'll keep coming up in your garden. They may come up in a pot, but when pots are left outside, the ground sometimes freezes a little too much, or the pot freezes a little too much. Probably winter's over better in a, right, so that's good. Set these aside. I'm going to take my garlic and do that first. It calls for 3 cloves of garlic. And to get a really nice mince on the garlic, what I usually do is turn the food processor on and drop the cloves in. They'll mince better that way. You won't find any garlic. All right. Now we're going to add all our other ingredients. So we have our chives. And the next thing we're going to add is half a cup of fresh parsley. And whenever I'm measuring these things, I'm going to pack it down. It's very leafy, so you're going to need to pick a fair amount. All right, so we have half a cup of parsley. That goes in. Then we're going to use half a cup of fresh basil. Again, I'm going to pack it in nice. Get a really good basil flavor. You can make pestos. It just needs paste out of all sorts of things. So find what flavor combinations work for you. One of my favorite herbs is rosemary. It has that piney smell to it. I really love to just rub my fingers over it and smell it. You're going to use 1 sprig. So this is I'm going to use about that much. It's probably about 2 inches long. And you're going to pull the needles off. It's almost like pine needles. And just rub against the stem grain to get off the woody stem. If you have really thick, a big bush, and the stems are really thick, you can use this as a skewer, and it has a little bit of flavor, and leave a little bit of the rosemary needles on it. It looks really pretty. I like to thread it with small pieces of mozzarella and cherry tomatoes. maybe brush it with a little pesto. So that's my rosemary. We're going to add just a sprinkle of salt again, just a sprinkle. We're going to add some fresh pepper. And then we're going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. First, I think I'll pulse this just a little bit. This recipe, you have the ingredients. It is on our website along with other recipes and videos of preparing different things, so do check it out. So I just chopped that up a little bit. Now I'm going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. When you buy olive oil, you want to look for extra virgin olive oil. It means it's the first pressing of the olives. It has the most flavor, so that's the best quality you can get. You always want to look for a dark bottle. The light will degrade the olive oil, so don't buy it in a clear bottle. And if you see the terms light, like L-I-G-H-T, on the bottle, light olive oil, it just means light in color or flavor. It does not have anything to do with being lighter in calories. Calories are the same, but it would the flavor would be less. I like the full-bodied olive oil, and olive oil does have antioxidants in it, and they are doing some really interesting research to see about some of the health benefits of that olive oil. And what you want to look for is an olive oil that has what they call a throat burn. So the oleocanthals in the olive oil cause almost a little burning sensation in the back of your throat. It's not unpleasant, but the more of that burniness you get in the back of your throat, not in your mouth, tells you it's higher in those oleocanthals, which are the antioxidant pieces. So again, we're going to pulse this a few times, scrape it down. If you don't have a food processor, you'd want to do this really finely and then rub it around. It might work in a blender. I think you're going to take a look at it. If you think it's not pasty enough for you, you can add just a little more olive oil, but I think this is good. I'm going to put some in a dish just so you can see. And it has that really nice bright green color. So how would I use this? I love pesto on fish. It doesn't matter whether it's this mixed herb pesto or the classic basil pesto. I love it on fish, on chicken. I like to put it, it can be used on a bread spread. It can be used in a variety of ways. Pasta, of course. And then another technique that I discovered last year was to grill mushrooms. So you take your mushrooms, oops. So I use the cremini mushrooms. Portobellos work really well and they're very impressive. So you're just going to pull off the stem, and you can save that to chop up for another use. Then I'm going to, and I've washed this already, just use a damp paper towel to get rid of any residual dirt. And I'm going to do is I'm going to grill this gill side down, so the whole side down on the grill, and probably about 5 minutes, maybe less. It'll depend on the size of your mushroom, just till they're starting to soften up a little bit. And that's what I have here. So I have these little mushroom caps, and again, the big portobello mushrooms work absolutely wonderfully. And then what I'm going to do is take just a tiny bit of my pesto and put it in the caps. You don't want to overfill it too much because it tends to ease out. And then I'm going to put it back on the grill. And this time I'm going to put the dome side down, and I'm just going to grill it until the mushroom's a little soft and the pesto starts to bubble. If it's not grilling season or you don't have a grill, one of the things, you could do this in the oven. You can bake it. Just take your raw mushrooms. I would bake them a little bit till they start to soften, and then add my pesto and finish them till they're warm. So here's the finished product. Here's my stuffed mushrooms. They're really nice as a little bit of an appetizer, just bite-sized, or they're also good for a side dish. Delicious way to use up some of your pesto. One last thing, whenever I make pesto, I usually have more than I can use for my given meal. It will keep in the refrigerator for about 3 days. We do not really want you to keep it longer because the herbs and the olive oil can spoil. If you're not going to use it within that 3-4 days, then you want to freeze it. I just make the extra pesto. I use an ice cube tray. This one's a silicone mold, but you can use regular ice cube trays. Just pack it into the tray and then pop it into the freezer. And then when it's frozen solid, I want to reuse my tray or my ice cube tray, whatever. And then I just put it into a bag, I label the bag, and these are the little frozen cubes. They'll keep, I've used them up to a year. They do not go bad, but the flavor will change over time. So you want to try to make enough that you can use it within a year, and it's a really nice treat to have the pesto available during the year. One last tip. This is a silicone mold, and I would try once your pesto or your herbs are frozen and solid to pop them out unless you're going to dedicate this just to using that. Silicone, my experience is it absorbs the flavor, the odor of the garlic and the strong, particularly with the basil. And if you leave it in here too long, it's very difficult to get the smell and the odor out of the silicone. So I hope you enjoyed our fresh herb sauces. I encourage you to take advantage of our other upcoming events. On the state level, we have Wellness Wednesdays with FCHS tomorrow. It's about the benefits of family meals. It takes place at 2 o'clock. You can register through our website, njaes.rutgers.edu, and then go to Family and Community Health Sciences, or the calendar is tomorrow at noon. This Friday, we're having Facebook Live again with Jennifer and her daughter. It starts at 11, and they're making a rainbow pasta. So enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you make some pesto and some chimichurri sauce and enjoy it with all your summer meals. Have a great day. Bye.